This is Money Talks.
Hi, my name is Ibukun Oyedeji, President CFA Society Nigeria. Join me and a host of other financial industry practitioners for Money Talks with CFA Society Nigeria.
Money Talks with CFA Society Nigeria. Let's talk about money. Hello everyone and welcome to Money Talks. Money Talks is brought to you by CFA Society Nigeria and is a financial literacy program. Smart Uzechi is my name, but you can call me Captain Smart. Today, Mutiat Olatunji is my guest on the program. Mutiat Olatunji is a private trust specialist at FBNQuest Trustees. She's a legal practitioner with over 10 years experience, taking a cue from her litigation experience, which has exposed her to the real-life experience of the implications of lack of proper estate planning. Mutiat has assisted several clients in setting up comprehensive estate plans that meet their immediate and future desire. She currently administers a number of estates, ensuring growth and profitability. Mutiat has vast experience in estate planning, advisory, structuring, as well as estate administration. And this evening, we'll have a lawyer who is going to be talking financial literacy on the program, Mutiat Olatunji, on Money Talks today. Mutiat, good evening and welcome to the program.
Good evening, Pastor Smart. It's nice to be here.
Good to have you. We will be talking this evening on estate planning using wills and trusts. That's our subject of conversation this evening. I know that many Nigerians don't like to talk about wills because they believe that once I start talking about wills,
it means I'm going to die.
It's like I want to die. And though people say the country is hard, nobody wants to die. Everybody wants to stay alive. So it's not about you dying, but it's about just making plans that will make your life easier. So stick around. When we return from this very short break, Mutiat Olatunji will be talking to us about that estate planning using wills and trusts. When we come back, please do stay with us.
Money Talks.
Money Talks.
Money Talks. Money Talks. Money Talks with CFA Society Nigeria. Let's talk about money. Welcome back. Mutiat Olatunji is the guest on the program. Estate planning using wills and trust will be the subject of discussion here this evening. So Mutiat, once again, so good to have you on the program.
Thank you, Pastor Smart.
I think this is the first time I'm having to interview a lawyer on this program. I think it's the first time. So let me give it to you, a lawyer making a debut here this evening. So very quickly, just as our topic that says estate planning using wills and trust, not so many will understand estate planning. They might be thinking is, okay, I want to build an estate. Let me get an architect or a builder to start to look at it. So when we say estate planning in this context, what exactly are we talking about?
Okay, so you're very correct. When we say estate planning, it doesn't mean building an estate, but that's the notion that a lot of people have.
Yeah.
But estate planning really means the conscious efforts that we make as individuals to ensure that everything that we own, we spell out how we want it distributed. Now, Nigerians will say, oh, I don't own anything. Like you had said, Pastor Smart, the economy is hard. But you forget that you have monies in your accounts. You have your pension, you have your car, no matter how little it is. You have your furnitures in your home. And these are things that you might actually want to give to beneficiaries, named specific beneficiaries. Even your phone is an asset. So just imagine, who do you want to give your phone to? All the funds in your account, who do you want to give it to? That is what estate planning is. Ensuring that, number one, you sit down and take an asset inventory. No matter how little you think you have, once you put pen to paper, you realize that you actually own a lot. And then taking that conscious effort to say, these are my assets and these are my beneficiaries. Whether or not I'm in the picture, these are the ultimate beneficiaries that should take these assets.
So it doesn't matter how much the assets cost, and it doesn't matter how young or old you are, because when we started, when you tell people about these sort of things, they say, are you wishing me dead?
The funny thing is that the young people even have more than the elderly ones, because we're in the digital age. You have content creators, you have people that are blogging, and they are earning a living from that. They don't realize that when they are no longer there, anything might happen. They can still continue to earn income from their platform. There are a lot of music we still stream today. Who are the royalties going to? If your content is being aired anywhere at all, who is the royalty going to? This is what most young people need to pay attention to. And for the elderly ones, believe me, you've worked all your life, you have your pension. Who are the ultimate beneficiaries of all these things that you own? So we are not saying that you are going to die, but we're also saying, Lord, that two things are certain. You are going to pay your taxes and you are going to die. We are not saying you die today, but even if it is 100 years time, who are the ultimate beneficiaries of everything that you've worked for?
So Mutiat, as a legal counsel on the program this evening, when would you say is the right time or the best time to begin to consider having an estate plan? Is there a particular age somebody has to attain, or status in the society, or perhaps bank balance?
Okay, Pastor Smart, I'm going to flip the question around. Do you consider yourself young or old?
I'm a young old man.
A young old man, but you have assets.
Yes, I have phone. You said phone is part of assets.
You have a phone,
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sure you have a car.
And when you're streaming
you have
something
pension.
Online, yes, I have pension.
Exactly. So there are some people that start working as maybe when they're 20, and immediately your organization opens a pension account for you. You automatically have an asset. Even if you're not in the typical 9 to 5, you have your side hustles. There's money in your account. You have something. So you don't have to wait till you're 50. And you don't have to wait till you buy that mansion somewhere. The little you have, people are ultimately looking up to you. We've seen an instance where two wives were fighting over DSTV decoder.
Wow.
After the man passed. So I'm sure to him it wasn't an asset. But just think of all the little things that you have, and beyond that, the ultimate beneficiary. It might even be your children. The money's in your account. How do you want it applied for the education or the lifestyle of your children? And if you feel you've trained your children well, because most people will tell you, I've sent my kids to school, what about giving back to the society? You can also use your estate plan to give back to the society if you believe that you've trained your children very well. So there's really no age limit to it.
So who is this person you're talking to here? Is it the man or the woman? Because another thing, I don't know whether it's a myth or a fact, another thing here is that they say they're always referring to the man. So when two people are married, it's a man and a woman. And it's the man that they're telling, set something aside, have a will or a trust in case something happens tomorrow. So the men are saying, must we die first? So who exactly are you telling?
Everybody, to be honest, Captain Spats, be it male or female, we all have things. Okay, so for females, for example, we have apparels, we have gold, we have jewelries. Some ladies will tell you that, oh, the dress I wore.
Money. Some women have money. They have buildings, they have cars.
Of course. Some ladies will tell you that, oh, the dress I wore for my wedding, I want my daughter to use it for her wedding. But if you don't have that written down somewhere, and you are not alive to see that happen, or you're incapacitated, how do you ensure that that thing comes to life? So believe you me, some ladies actually have more than their husbands. They just don't disclose. So that's why they should have an estate plan, because if anything happens to them, those assets will go undisclosed. Your husband might not even know of the investment that you just did yesterday.
Wow.
And so on that happens. So your estate plan serves as an asset inventory, and it is very important for women to take note, because women are making waves these days. Women are in every sector of the economy and they are really doing well. But one thing they forget to do is to have an estate plan that speaks to how they want their assets distributed.
Or they have them and they hide it from their husbands. It is well with men.
Amen.
Yeah, it is well with men. In case you're joining us now, you're listening to Money Talks. Money Talks is brought to you by CFA Society Nigeria. It's a financial literacy program. You can be part of the conversation here when you're ready to do that. Our phone lines are open. You can call us on 0700 923 923 923. That's 0700 923 923 923. You can also call 0818 444 0923. That's 0818 444 0923. You want to ask questions about estate planning, wills and trust, Barrister Mutiat is here and she can provide answers to those questions or guide you on how to do that. So Mutiat, we're talking wills and trusts right here. Can you tell us, are there any differences between a will and a trust, or are we just using the two words interchangeably?
Okay, so the wills and the trust are estate planning instruments. So the moment you decide that, yes, I want to set up an estate plan, there are two instruments you can use. You can either use a will or a trust, or both. Now, a will is the one that we Nigerians are typically used to. That's the document that comes into effect after the passing of the writer of the will. So the will is testamentary in nature. What that means is that if you write your will today, nobody would read or nobody would take benefit of the assets that you've listed until the demise of the writer of the will, after you've of course gone through the will reading process at the probate registry and obtaining grants of probate. Now for the trust is a living document. What that means is that it comes into effect during your lifetime and you can see it work. You can also be a beneficiary of your trust. So if I have funds today and I set up a trust, I can say, oh, during my lifetime, I'm the first line beneficiary. What that means is that I can make requests, I can ask for funds, I'll turn the trust to my savings. And then the good thing is that all the funds in your trust are invested. So it's not just lying fallow. You earn return on investment. I can also say this trust will take care of the education of my children. What that also means is that whether or not I'm in the picture, once my trust is adequately funded, my kids will continue to go to school. So I'm sure there's one neighbor, brother, uncle, nephew somewhere that you know that stopped going to school because maybe mother and father passed or father passed and then relatives came and they did what relatives do. If such person had a trust, the relatives will not have access to the trust, and what that means is that the trust will continue to pay the tuition of the children and they'll continue going to school. And we've seen instances of a trust working. In Nigeria, there are lots of trusts that work. Even abroad, you have the Michael Jackson's trust, for example. When he passed, the government, he was owing some people money and they couldn't go after the trust because the trust is different from him.
Wow.
His dad even tried to be a benefit. He went to court saying, oh, Michael Jackson was taking care of me during my lifetime, so I should be a beneficiary. The trust said, no, you are not a party. The person that created the trust did not list you as a beneficiary.
Wow.
So that's how private, confidential, and watertight a trust is. And we say it is best to have a trust during your lifetime. However, you can use both instruments. You can use both a will and a trust. There are some assets that can go into your trust. For example, your pension. You can put that in your will. But every other thing that you own, you can put it in your trust. You can turn your trust to your regular savings account and just always inflow money on a monthly basis, knowing that the future of yourself and your loved ones is adequately secured.
Wow, a lot of vital information here that will be pivotal to you having a good life, really. So don't be afraid when we're talking about wills and trusts. We're not trying to plan your funeral. You can ask questions that can actually save you some headache, whether you're here or you're not here. Estate planning using wills and trusts. Perhaps you've made a mistake, you want to remedy it, or you're planning to do one. Just call the telephone number 0818 444 0923. That's 0818 444 0923 or 0818 555 0923. You can send messages or record voice notes and send to the number 0817 313 6193. And your questions or your contributions are welcome on the program. So Mutiat, this thing you're talking about now, I'm sure it will have strategies. So can you let us know the strategies available, for estate planning? Or anybody can just do it anyhow? Do you need a professional or how do you go about it?
Okay, so there are a couple of strategies, and no, you can't DIY your estate plan. So the number one strategy is, what is your end goal? Because you have to define what your end goal is. That will determine what your starting point is going to be. What are your objectives? If you're a business owner, are you looking at business continuity plan? Are you looking at generational wealth transfer? Are you looking at just borderline education and welfare for your children? So these are the things that you will play at the back of your mind when you want to start your estate planning journey. The second thing is to have an asset inventory, be it a will or a trust. What assets do I want to put in the trust? How do I want these assets to play? What class of assets is it? Are they liquid assets? Are they fixed assets? How do I want my trustee to manage the assets? Then ultimately you need to speak to a professional. You can't DIY your estate plan because there are mistakes that you make. Larry King, for example, tried to write his will by himself and then he just scribbled something down and said, oh, this is the last will and testament of Larry King. I give all my assets to, and he listed his children. Now, what constitutes his assets is not properly stated. So he just said assets. Nobody even knows where to find this asset. You didn't list your bank account. You didn't say anything about your royalties. All of that was silent. Number two is that he didn't name an executor. So who is going to carry out the wishes as contained in your will? He didn't say anything about that. One of his child predeceased him. He didn't say what should go to that person. Okay, so if I've given you this portion and you die before me, who should that portion go to? Should it go to your children? All of that was silent. He also did not give his wife anything. So that was a ground for his wife to contest the will, that if he was going to disinherit me, he should state clearly why he's disinheriting me. So we tell people that don't try to do it yourself. You cannot underestimate the role that professionals play in assisting you to come up with a robust estate plan that is watertight, that meets your immediate and future needs, and also ensure that there's little or no family tussle when you're no longer in the picture.
But these people you're going to have to enlist, are you going to pay them?
So as your executors?
The professionals that will help you to write this will, because people are trying to set money aside for people. They might consider it as expenses, really.
So Pastor Smart, do a cost-benefit analysis. Are you looking at the little expense that you incur now, or the cost of not having an estate plan, which includes that people can be in court for 5 decades and counting, and that's currently happening here in Nigeria. So families have been fighting for 5 decades and counting. That means they've passed it from one generation to the other.
They might even die.
So their kids have taken over the battle. So imagine what will happen if I'm a tenant in one of those houses. Who am I going to pay my rent to?
So you stay there rent-free?
Except the court directs me to pay into the court's accounts. But you come to me and say, pay to me. I'll be like, your brother came yesterday, so should I pay to? Both of you should go and finish your family fight, then you can come back. So that is the cost of not having an estate plan. So we say do a cost-benefit analysis. Is it the little money you pay today that will save you, your family, and your loved ones the headache in the long run, or you just want to leave things to chance? And we say don't leave things to chance.
Don't leave things to chance. It's Money Talks. It's really financial literacy that we're dealing with here. Our phone lines are open: 0700 923 923 923 or 0818 444 0923. There's also 0818 555 0923. Mutiat is talking about you having to pay the professional to do that for you. But while she's here, I can assure you the services of Mutiat are free. So you can ask her questions, you can consult her while she's here. She has about 10 minutes or less to be here. So you can ask any question of your choice and be sure you're going to get an answer. But there's something you're already dealing with there right now. Mutiat can bring clarity to all of those. Let's talk about tax. You said 2 things are inevitable. We all have to pay tax, and someday we pray that when we're very old, we all have to die. No matter how much we love this earth, but our prayer is, let's not die young,
Yes.
Let's die at full old age. When the problem will not be money for the funeral, and not that the person has died, too early. So let's talk about tax. Do taxes, the people who do these things, wills and trusts, do they have any kind of advantages talking about tax in this estate planning issues we're looking at here?
Okay, so for wills, there's something called the estate duty on whatever asset the deceased had. So in Lagos, for example, it's 10% of the value of all the asset that the person owned. You pay that to the state government when you're trying to get grants of probate. I know that abroad is between 40 to 60% of what the person owns. So you can pay as high as over 1 billion naira, depending on your assets class, as tax when it comes to will. However, the trust is more, it's milder when it comes to taxes, because the asset is no longer in your individual name and is now in the name of the trust. As at now, there's currently no tax implication for setting up a trust in Nigeria. Now, some people will say, if I'll eventually still pay the government, why do I need to have a will? What we say is that you have to remember that your will is an asset inventory, and your will is you speaking from the grave as regards how you want your asset distributed. If you do not have that will in place or that instruction in place, your beneficiaries will still pay that estate tax, and the people that you don't want to take benefit of the asset will eventually take benefit of the asset. Because whether you die with a will or without a will, you pay your estate duty to the government before they can access as little as your bank account or the funds in your pension. So why not just do the proper thing? Don't think about the tax implication, because really you are no longer there. It's not for you to pay, but just secure the future of your loved ones.
Secure the future of your loved ones. Mutiat, let's go now to talking about criteria here. I asked you earlier, the criteria for choosing a professional to work with on this, or is it just anybody that presents themselves as a professional? Do you have things you're looking at for in choosing this person?
Yeah, there are a couple of things that everyone should look out for when choosing an estate planning expert. Number one is experience. and professionalism. So you don't just want to go to someone that doesn't have estate planning experience. The person must have estate planning experience. The person must be able to speak to structures that they can put in place to achieve the end goal that you want. That is one. Also, how long has this person been in the estate planning industry? That also determines the person's experience and expertise, because if you've been in an industry for 45 years, you've seen so many things. You also know things that you can put in place to ensure that, okay, this doesn't go wrong, because you've seen a lot of estates go wrong. So you need to look out for experience, you need to look out for professionalism, and you also need to look out for etiquettes. So any professional that you are speaking to across every aspect of your life, etiquettes and ethics is of utmost importance. The person must be honest with you, and the person must give you professional advice. So those are the three main things that people should look out for when speaking to experts, and estate planning experts especially.
In case there are people listening there who say, Auntie Mutiat, Oshe, we have heard you, no problem. So if I decide not to have an estate planning, are there risks associated with that?
There are a couple of risks, Pastor Smart, and I've mentioned quite a number already. Number one is that your loved ones don't know the assets that you have. You want to leave things behind for people. You say, all this suffering that I'm suffering, I'm doing it for my kids, I'm doing it for my loved ones, but there's nothing that speaks to everything that you own. There's nothing that lists out your bank account, for example. There was a time when CBN was saying something about converting some monies that have been dormant in some bank accounts for a while. That's happened. Same thing with dividends, because their loved ones didn't even know that they owned those things. I'll give you a very typical example, Pastor Smart. There was I was speaking with one of my colleagues, and he said that there was a client that had an investment worth over 40 million. And the person was living in one just normal area in Lagos, and he passed, and his children struggled to bury him. Like, they really struggled to bury him. And years after, they're like, okay, dad is gone, let's just dispose of all these things that he has. And they found an investment certificate that said, he had investments with so place, and they came with the investment certificate. At that point, the money was about 47 million. So imagine what would have happened if those kids knew when their father passed that he had that kind of money. And what if they never found the investment certificates? The money would just continue there to keep rolling over, investing, but there was no beneficiary. So that is the cost of not having an estate plan. Your loved ones don't know what you have, they don't know how you want it to be distributed, and then everything is just left in a disarray, and then you have family members fighting over something they never worked for.
So when in the case of that man, no beneficiary, does it mean the money is lost?
So now they'll go and get letters of administration to assess it. But that was because they found an investment certificate. If they didn't find anything, they wouldn't have known. And we have so many accounts and investments like that in Nigeria, even abroad.
And the company sits on that money. They will never come to say, oh, your father had an investment with us.
That's if they know the details of the children.
Wow.
That's if they know. Because even typical banks, even if you're named as next of kin and you walk in and say, oh, my dad passed, I want to have access to his account, they'll tell you, no, you can't. You need to get letters of administration or grants of probate before you can have access to those funds.
What about cultural issues in certain places where they will say, oh, the woman cannot inherit or cannot benefit from what the father had left behind? This will go to just the male children and all of that. Are there legislations that take care of those kind of issues?
Yeah, so there's a recent Supreme Court case that says that women can inherit. And what we typically say to people is that rather than leave things to chance, why not document it and say, I want to give this to my daughter? If that goes to the court of law, if anybody contests it, because it's your dying wish, the court is going to uphold it. So rather than leaving your daughters to chance and say, that is what the culture has said, your will or your trust actually avails you the opportunity to give them a leverage. For example, if you put assets in your trust, you can say, when I'm no longer there, give it to my daughter. The trust is private and confidential. Nobody knows the content of the trust, so nobody is even going to disturb your daughters as regards, oh, your dad left something for you when he wasn't supposed to leave something for you. So for male who know that they have these cultures that will disinherit their wives or their daughters in the long run, we say have an estate plan. It is of utmost importance for people like that to have an estate plan to secure and safeguard their loved ones.
Have you had an issue relating to fake wills and trusts?
So you can't have a fake trust.
Really?
Yes, you can't have a fake trust, and you can't have a fake will. What you can have is a will that is being contested.
Or doctored one.
Exactly.
The one that second wife changed.
But you have to prove
Or
it in
side
court.
chick.
And that's why we say speak to a professional. When you do your will the proper way, you don't just write your will and keep it in your house. You lodge it with the probate registry. That gives it a bit of authenticity to say, and the probate registry will ask for certain things before lodging, your means of ID, your passport photograph, and they keep a copy. So will reading typically is not even done in the person's house where the lawyer will call everybody. It is done at the probate registry. So there's a proper procedure for all of this, and that's why we say speak to an estate planning professional.
Wow, this is an education of some sort, though it's a scary education.
Don't be scared, that's first part.
Because you cannot but think of when you're no longer there, right? It just brings it to mind.
Yes.
But it's inevitable. We all will leave this surface one day, but our prayer for you is that you don't go too early, but just make these preparations. They are very, very important. Mutiat Olatunji has been our guest on the program this evening. She is a private trust specialist at FBNQuest Trustees, and she's been talking to us this evening on estate planning using wills and trusts. Mutiat, thank you very much for your time on the radio this evening. We have enjoyed every bit of it. I know people will be saying, but it's fine. It's fine. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
I hope that you find time to come around again.
Definitely. And I hope you set up your estate plan soon.
Yes, I will.
Okay.
I will.